All right, guys, welcome back. This week we are talking about the forensic autopsy. So, what is an autopsy? So, an autopsy is a post mortem examination, so after death, performed on a corpse to help determine the cause and manner of death. Now, last week we talked about cause versus manner of death, right? So, hopefully, you understand the difference. If we break down the word autopsy, right, the prefix auto means self. So autopsy means to see for oneself. All right, so why would a forensic autopsy be performed? So they are performed when the cause of death of a victim is unknown, right? It can be performed when there's a criminal case involving foul play, and it helps to apply science to legal law. So if a body was found and they didn't know who killed this person or why this or how this person was killed, etc., they would perform an autopsy. Even if they knew who killed the person and how they were killed, a lot of times they will still perform an autopsy to help gather evidence, right? It helps to build up that base of evidence that can be taken to court to hopefully obtain a conviction. So, in forensic autopsy, death is placed into 5 different categories. So, natural would be something that would naturally happen to a person. So, old age, heart attack, stroke, any of those things that would be a natural cause of death, not caused by anything outside, right? There's accident, so that could be a car accident, that could be anything. I mean, it could be something falling off of a high building and hitting somebody. Anything that happened accidentally. Homicide is when one person kills another person, either intentionally or unintentionally. That's where we get into the different degrees of homicide. Suicide is when someone obviously kills themselves. And then we have unknown, where you can't figure out the category of death. So, following an in depth examination of all the evidence, a medical examiner or coroner will assign a manner of death as one of those 5 listed above. And then what they will do is they will detail the evidence on the mechanism of the death. So, natural death is a death by natural cause, right? So, this is a term used by coroners to describe the death of someone by occurring disease processes, or it's not apparent given medical history or circumstances. So, the majority of natural death is caused by old age. Other causes of natural death are heart disease, stroke, genetic disorders, etc. Accidental death is a death that's often caused by mistake or in a freak occurrence. They're not planned, but they can be explained by surrounding circumstance. Homicidal death refers to the act of killing another person. And they break that down into a bunch of different groups, right? So we have infanticide, which would be killing an infant, fratricide, which is killing one's brother, sororicide is killing one's sister, parricide is killing one's parents, patricide is killing one's father, matricide is killing one's mother, marticide is killing one's spouse, uxoricide is killing one's wife, filicide is killing one's child, regicide is killing of a monarch, and then genocide is killing of a national, ethnic, or racial or religious group. So homicide is the most often investigated death, and that's why it is the most autopsied. Suicidal death is the act of ending one's own life. The autopsies often easily identify the source, cause, and other factors of the death. A lot of times this can be an overdose, it can be a gunshot wound, etc. Suicide is often identified in the forensic autopsy as a cause of toxic firearm, blunt force trauma, etc. Unknown death. So in some jurisdictions, the undetermined category may include deaths in absentia. So death at sea, missing people, people declared dead in a court of law, and then other such deaths are classified under other. So in the example with, if you've watched Tiger King, Carol Baskin's husband, he went missing, presumed dead, right after 5 years. She had him declared dead, so his cause of death would be unknown, and it would be because the death was in absentia or absent, okay? So meaning that he's just gone, and we don't know why. Experts who perform forensic autopsies. So forensic autopsy is usually performed by a specialized medical doctor called a forensic pathologist or a medical examiner. To be a pathologist, the doctor has to complete a 4-year undergraduate program, 4 years of medical school training, and 3 to 4 years of postgrad training in the form of a pathology residency. Interesting fact, this was actually my original degree program. Protocol for performing a forensic autopsy. So the corpse would be brought into the medical examiner's office in a body bag. They don't reuse body bags because you don't want to have any transfer of evidence, or in evidence sheets, which are also not reused. The body is then placed on the cadaver dissection table. And then there's a physical examination done. So we have two different major parts of physical examination. We have external and internal. So the external examination is going to be looking at the external parts of the body, right? So looking at the outer layer of the body for signs of foul play that could have resulted in injury or death. It's looking for injuries. It's looking for things like, for example, bite marks or scrapes or scratches or anything that could indicate how that person died. Or help to solve that mystery. Part of what they do is they'll, scrape under the fingernails to make sure that there's no skin tissue under the nails from whoever attacked them. They will do swabs of your mouth. If you're a female, swabs of the vagina. Everyone swabs of the anus. They also collect hairs, so they'll collect hairs from your head, from your pubic area, etc. If you're a male, they'll collect, you have a beard, they'll collect hair from your beard. And then they also will just generally look over the body to make sure that they don't miss anything, to see if there's anything there that should not necessarily be there, right? The internal examination consists of inspecting the internal organs of the body for evidence of trauma. Or other things that could indicate the cause of death. So this is where they actually open up the body cavity and sometimes the brain cavity to look and see what happened to this person. So here's the external examination example. So step 1, things are photographed. Physical evidence is collected off the body. Samples are taken from the hair, nails, etc. They are undressed, examined for wounds, measured, weighed, and then at the last step is they clean the body. So once the external examination is complete, then they move on to the internal examination. So the first step of an internal examination is to make incisions. So the 3 main ones would be a Y shape, which comes from kind of behind each ear, runs down the neck, meets at the breastbone, and then continues towards the groin. A T shape is cut from each shoulder, meeting at the breastbone, and then down towards the groin, kind of makes a T shape. A Y shape makes a Y shape, right? And then the single vertical cut is the last option that goes from the throat down to the groin. So all cuts are deviating towards the left. The cavity, the chest cavity is cut open using shears, and then the ribs are sawed away, which allows them to be lifted off the body, right, which exposes those internal organs, the heart, the lungs, etc. Then the organs are removed. So there's 2 different methods that can be used. So there's the en masse technique, which is where all the organs are removed at once. And then there's the en bloc technique, where organs are divided into 4 groups and removed in sections. Once those organs are removed, they're weighed and examined for unusual markings or signs, right? They're looking for anything that's abnormal weight, abnormal appearance. So for example, a fatty liver, or for example, indications of a heart attack, etc. The next step would be the brain examination. So an incision would be made from a point behind one ear over the top of the head to a point behind the opposite ear. The scalp is then peeled away from the skull, which creates flaps. The front flap is pulled down over the face. The rear flap folds down behind the neck. And then the skull is cut with an electric saw. Kind of, if you've ever seen a skeleton in a classroom, how the top of the skull comes out, it's pretty much exactly how they cut it. So that cover can be lifted off then to expose the brain. And then the brain is removed from the spinal cord and lifted out of the skull for examination and also to be weighed. In addition, the cardiovascular system, the respiratory system, the central nervous system, and all other systems of the body that help control activity are examined, right? Because we're trying to determine what actually caused this person to die. The vitreous humor is another thing that's measured. So the vitreous humor is the fluid within your eyeball. So the levels of vitreous humor in the corpse, in the eye of the corpse, can help tell us how long the person's been dead. And then the more potassium in the eye, the longer the victim has been dead. And through studies at body farms, we are able to kind of look at this data, and it gives us more information, more detail into how long this person has been deceased. All right, so there are different stages of death, which is what we're going to go into now. So the first one is livor mortis, which is also means the color of death, right? So livor mortis is coloration of the skin. So at death, when your heart stops working, the blood stops pumping. So the blood has to go somewhere. And the blood's going to kind of pool in the bottom part of your body, closest to the floor. So if you were laying on your back when you died, the blood would pool in the back area. Same if you were laying on your front side, etc. A line is going to form after 8 hours if the body is not moved. If it is moved, a new line will form. So if we see kind of two lines, it gives us an indication that body was moved. We can't really tell which was first, but the thinner the line, the longer the position the body was in. Algor mortis is the coolness of death. So this refers to the temperature of the body. So in a controlled environment, starting at 98.6 degrees, the body will drop 1 degree per hour, approximately. This happens because when you die, your respiratory system stops working, your body stops functioning, it's no longer moving. And when you take temperature of a corpse, you can't take it in the mouth because the muscles will be relaxed and the tongue won't stay on top of the thermometer. Also, if you think about it, the mouth could be open, right, which would help the mouth to cool at a quicker rate. So typically, they will take an internal temperature. Thinner people cool faster than heavier people. Rigor mortis, you've probably heard that one, that is the stiffness of death. And this refers to the flexibility of the body. This shows up about 2 hours after death. It peaks at about 12 hours after death, and it takes about 12 to 24 hours for the entire rigor mortis effect to take place. So like I said, at about, let's just say 10, at about 10 hours after death, the body is at its stiffest. The eyelids are affected first, the jaw, the face, the trunk, the arms, and the legs. So that means they kind of stiffen up. They really can't be moved, right? You have to wait for the body to relax. And this can end about 24 to 36 hours after the person died. Then we have pallor mortis, which is the paleness of death. This is referring to the tone of the body. This starts about 15 to 20 minutes after death because we no longer have that capillary circulation in the body, right? That's what makes your skin nice and pink. So once the blood stops pumping, it starts to pool. The body will tend to become a little more pale. This can't really be used to determine time of death, except if the body is found still with color. Then we know it is very, very recent, probably within the last, 15 to 20 minutes. All right, so that's where we are going to stop. You have a couple small assignments this week. I hope you find this interesting, and if you have any trouble, need any help, please don't hesitate to reach out. I am here to help. Have a wonderful week, guys.